But I always edit it anyway afterwards.
Yeah, that's
so.
probably best too. If you edit me down, you should get a good 2 to 3 minutes out of it. What do you think?
Right then, mate. So today on a good old Natter With, I have with me the most excellent Michael Flash Ware. How you doing, mate?
Not too bad, thank you very much for asking.
Good. So, first question that I always tend to ask people is your first computer or introduction to games. What was it?
Oh my God, we are going back because I'm quite old. I know I look young, and I do get
About
questions
27?
well, less than that because I mean, if I go in the shop and just go and buy, chocolate liqueurs at Christmas, they always ask me age. I want some proof, but no, going back, it's probably at school at some point. There used to be back then that it was like a broom cupboard was the computer room,
Right, yeah.
that small. But the first one they had in there was like a teletype, so no screen. It was still a computer, and you type the stuff in and got the responses back, all printed on that. Remember that paper you used to have with the holes down the side you used to pull off?
Oh, yeah, the carbon stuff for the dot matrix job.
Well, yeah, well, no, it wasn't dot matrix then. That would be what do they call it? Daisy wheel. But we didn't have dot matrix then.
Oh, right, okay.
That was daisy wheel. So it was like a big circle of all the letters and numbers and everything, and that just spun
right, yeah, okay, I'm with you.
against the ribbon like a typewriter would. Yeah, and we'd have there'd be adventure games, which was the first sort of thing you ever played. You would see it on the printout, tell you where you are, and then you'd type on the keyboard and see that being typed like a typewriter, press return, and then that print out the response, which was normally I don't understand what torch. I do not understand. Oh God, I pressed the wrong key. But yeah, that was like the first thing. So no screens.
Wow. So how about game wise after that?
What with screens?
Mm.
Well, I don't know whether that had been the BBC. Might have been. Oh no, it wouldn't. I know what it was. It was the RML 380Z and the RML 480Z, Research Machines Limited.
Wow.
They sort of predated it a little bit, not by much. Yeah, they were quite cool. I've got, which one have I got? The 480Z, I think. One of them was almost like rack mount, sort of metal, very metal, and the keyboard was metal with the plastic keys poking through. But I can't remember. I think that was the 380Z or the 480Z. But yeah, they were great. I think they were Z80 based, but very primitive graphics, much like a Commodore PET.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So your Space Invaders was almost like an inverse of a ZX81 because it tended to be black paper and white ink, if you know what I mean. So it's like the opposite of how games ended up being on the ZX81 because the graphics tend to be black, didn't they, with the white paper.
Yeah. So was you how far away were you before the arcades started?
Well, a lot would have been about the same time, and you'd have I can't remember some of the earlier arcade games we used to go and play, but yeah, because that'd have been late. I think late 70s, very early 80s, so that would have been around the Space Invader time.
Yeah.
But I remember before that because you used to have there was an odd driving game that I think it actually projected the image on the reflection of the image on the screen, and it's still used to. I Oh, that'll come to me.
Hmm.
What that was called. I remember being quite impressed by that, and because you had the Space War, and because then you started getting things going away from Boot Hill and all the black and white with
Yeah.
and moved on to things more like the Donkey Kong, which I remember quite well, and the original Mario Brothers was just.
Oh wow, yeah, yeah.
We used to take a drive. There used to be a calf. I was living in Beggles at the time in Suffolk, and we used to take a drive to some calf along the coast that had one of these Mario Brothers machines in there. So we'd always be playing two players at it, and the best thing was just trying to bounce your opponent to get them killed. We
Hmm.
never played it to complete levels. We just played it to see who'd be the last man standing. That became more of that was like early Fortnite or whatever. That was the way to play it. But
Yeah.
yeah, God, they were happy days. There was some great stuff about it. It's just like a sports centre would just suddenly be all these arcade machines would be appearing. I remember Frogger turning up at the sports centre, which was like the sports area, which was attached to the school, as it were,
Yeah.
that was right next to the school. So your school, a lot of your school sports events would happen there. And I remember Frogger turning up, the Frog arcade machine Sega, and I just thought, wow, this is amazing. This is just amazing. Yeah, there was a lot of that going on because like they had a tabletop Space Invaders turned up at the well, not the youth club, but that's where the youth club was. Um, that was the no, the community centre just down the road from where I lived in Beggles,
Hmm.
and the um, Space Invaders tabletop turned up there, and everyone was playing. Eventually, I got to go on. I was absolutely hopeless. Absolutely hopeless. That was so because the big thing was, oh, and you have to do the bullet run from one end to the other, and all that. Oh, I don't know what I was doing. Dying a lot, dying a lot. Cost me a few 10p's that did. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, they were the early days. It was quite well. It was great to be honest because there was just so much stuff turning up.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I saw those kind of games just going out to the pubs really with my dad when I was younger. When Frogger, the first time I saw that, I think it was in the British Legion,
Yeah,
and the tabletop games again would have been some random pub where I lived at the time. So yeah, we were quite fortunate to have a few arcades in the area as well. I don't know if you experienced that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a lot. Yeah, I was just thinking, I've still got a tabletop Bomb Jack of all games.
Oh,
Was it 10,
okay.
10 Gen, was it? Anyway, yeah, tabletop Bomb Jack somewhere, tabletop. And loads of arcade boards.
Right, okay.
That's what comes from running a arcade for 31 years.
Right, so you run an arcade. Okay.
Oh yeah,
So
I used to run one
yeah.
in Norwich for a long, long time, which is quite sad really, because at the time, going right back, you never really realised how important these machines were. You
No.
know, so when no one wanted them, we'd just bust them up. They'd just get choked. We'd get skipping and get rid of them. And they would include
Oh,
things
wow.
like maybe Pac-Man pinball and the Pac-Man pinball, sorry,
Yeah.
with a little grid in the centre where you flipped over and played sort of like Pac-Man with lights, didn't you? Little Pac-Man pinball. And what else went in there? I mean, Mark III Laserdisc game. I remember that going. He just didn't think to keep them.
Mark III Laserdisc game. I
Yeah, yeah. It's
remember the Dragon's Lair games and
yeah.
Space
Mark
Ace
III
and stuff like that.
was like you saw your ship and your clouds and everything done on the
Mm,
Laserdisc, and the
yeah.
ships were kind of sprites. They
Yeah.
attacked you and you shot them. Yeah, that went in there. So did Wardner. I think one of the super sprints.
Oh, blimey. But that's heartbreaking when you think about that now. All those boards you chucked
Yeah,
in the
you think
skip.
about it now, but see, back then you couldn't get rid of them. You know, you couldn't sell them because no one saw they had any value, and trying to give them away, no one had the room for them.
Yeah.
So you ended up chucking them on a skip because that's
So
the only option you had. Now, if you suddenly some of these machines that we got rid of, you would be. I mean, there's asteroids out. I mean, I've still kept one. I've got an asteroids and Space Invaders, but
oh wow, that's two good ones to keep.
yeah. But it just, I couldn't house them all. So I ripped the boards out of lots of them though and kept them.
Yeah.
I've still got my original Track and Field, Hyper Olympic, Ghosts and Goblins. I can't remember what I've got now. Sex Exa.
And these are just the boards.
Yeah, just the boards. Yeah.
Wow. Have you tested them to make sure they still work or?
No, well, they did work. Whether they still work now, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Have you thought about like donating them to any museum or
No, I
anything
think
like
I
that?
did mention that with at Crash. I was talking about that.
Okay.
But yeah, I might do. I might need to go and sort them all out at some point. I've got all the top flashes. Remember the old top flashes you used to have in the Goliath and
Yeah.
Xenon
Yeah.
cabinets? I kept all them, including the ones from the old Atari system. System 1, was it?
Oh wow.
Roadblasters, Marble Madness, Indiana Jones, all on the same board, weren't they?
Right, you got the Temple of Doom one. Wow.
Yeah. So I kept all them. I've got loads of them.
Gauntlet, was that one?
No, I don't think that
No?
was. That's a different board. Yeah.
Wow. So did you own this arcade or were you just
Well, I was
using
the
it for somebody?
manager.
Yeah.
Not initially. I went there just like as a cashier, floor walker, that kind of thing. Originally, and keep an eye on the door because that's quite rough at the time. We used to have groups there called like the City Boys, and then there would be ATL, which is above the law.
Really?
And they just would come there just to cause shit. So we used to actually. Sorry, I swore. See, told you I would.
That's all good. It's all good.
We used to actually take pool cues. We had a pool hall up above, so we used to take pool cues and we used to cut them down and put tape around them. And then the front door had shutters that went down. So in the gap where the back of the shutters were, we'd have pool cues at each side. So when there was trouble, we'd be on the door with them. Used to be a massive Turkish bloke who, unfortunately, has long since left us. Lovely chap, called Farouk Rashid. And he used to be a doorman in the city as well, but he used to work there. So we'd just be standing on the door for hours and hours on end with these pool cues.
That's mad. It just sounds like Double Dragon.
Yeah, those are mad days. This is an arcade. This is not a nightclub. You know, you didn't expect to have all that. But I mean, that was what it was like back then. This was
got rival gangs.
80s, early 90s, maybe a bit later actually. Yeah, it probably went on a bit later. With ATL was a bit later. City Boys were earlier. But yeah.
Wow, that's mental. So, how did you start programming?
Well, I didn't start programming. I'll tell you how I started. I started reading Personal Computer World and similar publications at the time, and being fascinated. I mean, I had a ZX80 in 81, but just being fascinated by how everything worked. So you'd get these magazines, and they would be at school. So I'd sit there with a pen and paper and write out all the listings.
Okay.
Onto my own pad, and because in doing so, you're sort of almost questioning how this did this, how this, as you're
Yeah.
writing it.
Yeah.
You know, because you get bored copying stuff, so your mind's
Mm.
doing other stuff. So that actually helped me learn to code in BASIC, at least. You know, there was some machine code, but not a lot. But in BASIC, yeah. And that's how I started coding. And then I did start coding in BASIC on the ZX80 and the ZX81. ZX80 was hard work because obviously the screen went off all the time. But
Don't touch
ZX81,
it.
yeah. Well, no, because every time you pressed a key to keep the process, it turned the screen off.
Yeah.
So if you're running a program as well, the screen was off. You had to stop the execution for a bit to show what was going on. So not great for arcade games.
No.
ZX, yeah, ZX80 wasn't rectified on the 81, but yeah. So, and then there was the Spectrum, of course, and then
I've
things
also been
started
straight to the
working more
spec.
fun. Yeah, after the 81, yeah,
Mm.
onto the Spectrum, and yeah, quite a soft spot for that.
Yeah. And did you venture onto any of the other machines, the 64 or
Well, yeah,
Amstrad or anything like that?
64 came not that long after the Spectrum. Then I got a 64 and a disk drive, and
Yeah.
a bit of a different beast in a way to the Spectrum. The Spectrum is awesome, and I love all the old computers, every single one of them.
Yeah.
But
I think
when
it's good too.
yeah, but when I moved on to the Commodore 64, and I remember getting because I was then on CompuNet and everything else, and because you've got all the early Rob Hubbard tunes to listen to, and just after listening to Beat on the Spectrum, and suddenly having
Yeah.
that, you just suddenly thought you'd gone from, I don't know what are the best ones to compare. I won't do a comparison because that'll rattle people. But you just feel like you suddenly
do
just
you want me to say it? The SID chip is awesome.
yeah, but it was just like you suddenly got more of a machine. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there's
You had a
lots of
proper
games.
keyboard, didn't you?
Pum,
You had a proper keyboard.
that was nice, yeah. But you had to type more,
Yeah.
you know, because you lost out on having the little being able to do print just with two presses and that kind of stuff. But yeah, and that's great, and that's what sort of forced me into learning assembly language, because Spectrum was great and the BASIC was good. As soon as you went to a Commodore 64 and played with BASIC, it was dire.
Was it?
It was so slow. It was that was rubbish. The worst BASIC ever. I mean, terrible. To do anything, you had to use pokes. You know, you couldn't manipulate anything. I mean, I know they brought out the cartridge Simon's Basic by Simon. Lost it. That rectified a lot of it, but it was still slow. Still slow. So you had to learn assembly language, and luckily the Commodore 64 came with the programmer's reference guide, which was incredible. And I learned everything from there, and thought, "What? Let's write a game. Let's write a game." And because we then done Warhawk. Yeah,
So was Warhawk your first game?
yeah, first commercial game. Yeah, yeah, it was games before that, but the first commercial game was Warhawk. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you remember what your first ever game was? I'm guessing that was a basic game. Or
Well, I found one of them. Well, lovely Tim, as I said to you earlier, he transferred it, which was on the Spectrum, which was called Time Zone, which was a fruit machine,
right? Yeah.
sort of simulator, which I haven't released to anyone yet, but I will do. I will do. I should have sent it to you prior to this.
That'll be an interesting one to see. Actually, that will. Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite good.
Mm.
As fruit machines go, had all the gambles and all the going up the paths, and I think the jackpot was £2.40. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is one of the early ones. But there's a Tron light cycle game, which
Is that okay?
yeah, which I did. But he hasn't managed to get that off tape yet. Because the tapes, I mean, that wasn't looked after. That was in a greenhouse. So to
Yeah.
get anything off, it was quite good going, really. And it
Mm.
was nice to see it again. But can't talk about forward thinking or backwards thinking. Depends how you. I load up the game, and one of the first things that comes up is, "Are you on a colour or black and white telly?" Press C or B, and it changed all the colours so that it made
Wow.
it so you
Okay.
could see it better on black and white, or use all the colour if you're on colour. I don't think many games did that then. I think it was just
No.
because we were.
Well, the
My mate
the
had a
Atari
colour telly, and I had a
2600, you had
black
a
and white
switch.
one. Pardon?
The Atari 2600, you just had a switch, didn't you? Colour, black
Yeah,
and white.
yeah. I think it's because I had a black and white telly at the time, little portable, and my
Mm.
mate had a colour telly. So as I was doing it, you just go, "Oh, hold on, you can't quite see that," and I'll do a bit round his, and then take it back and look on mine for. I can't tell the difference between them two. You
Yeah.
know, it's made it a bit hard. So I added the option. Yeah.
Did you have any of the early consoles? Did you have an Atari or anything
No, I had
previous
a
to that?
friend who had a VCS,
Yeah.
2600.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't have any consoles.
Right. Okay.
Not until later in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a kid, no, I never had any. I wasn't. You couldn't program them.
No. So that was your interest,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
so
Obviously. Yeah.
they weren't that appealing.
Mm.
No, I can't remember. What the first console I probably had was whichever, neither an imported Mega Drive or an imported SNES. I can't
Okay.
remember which one was first. So I'm just
So Famicom then.
no Super Nintendo, SNES, or Mega Drive.
Yeah.
One of them two. I didn't have a Famicom
Mm.
or NES.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about the first thing. Oh, I did have a PC Engine. I can't
Oh,
remember the time scale now.
love the
The
PC
original
Engine.
little white one.
Yes.
All we used to
Yeah.
do was play Bomberman.
Amazing game.
So that
Yeah.
must have been about 92, 93 then.
Yeah. 8-bit machine as well. Incredible.
Yeah, it was.
I know it got
Yeah,
bells and whistles, but
yeah, it's got quite a
incredible
few.
machine.
I have coded on it. Um,
Oh, you have?
hmm,
Wow.
I've just about coded on anything, everything.
Mm.
I mean, I can't remember what the last thing I was coding on was prior to now. Vectrex. That'd been
Yeah,
about the last
I'm
one.
still after a Vectrex, but they're pricey now.
They are now, aren't they?
Mm. I'll get one eventually.
Yeah,
So
great machines.
they are. They really are. When I spoke to you at Crash, you mentioned something which completely took me by surprise, which was a piece of software called Game EX, which I literally built an arcade from scratch using bits of old wood and whatever and an old PC.
Yeah.
And I used that software. What was your...
Well, mine wasn't actually the original Game EX. So it was the sort of what was going to be the follow-up, which was Game EX Evo,
Right, okay.
which was Evolution.
Mm.
And me and a friend, Ben Baker, were working on that. But that's out. But a lot of the code from that, I think, is now used in Game EX. I'm not sure how much or anything now.
Yeah. So was it your background in arcades that drew you to do
Well, I
like
was
the
also
front
doing
end?
that. I started off with doing databases actually before there was all the scraping engines and all that kind of stuff that people use now. Before
Yeah.
then, we had this. Ben Baker wrote a bit of software called the called DBM. I can't remember what it stood for now. Database manager, could be. And I just spent hours researching everything and putting every game and console, all the info into this massive database. Which so that could be included with like GameX or GameX, and so when you added all your games and all that, you'd get all the info and what the publisher was, what year it was, and all that without needing internet. Well, you're saying that without using internet, there wasn't the resources like there is now. Wasn't. I mean, now you've got things like is it Screen Scraper and Games
you can get everything.
and
Game box art the lot now.
Launchbox database. Well, that, mind you, I don't think they've got an API for scraping at the moment, or not open anyway. So that just bypassed all that, so it was always there. I must have entered, I don't know, 200,000, 300,000 games over the course of a few years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about our loved Spectrum next now. How did you get involved in that?
Well, I did. I was going back through all the Facebook messages not so long ago to try and go back, and that was actually Simon Butler.
Right.
God bless him, little darling.
He's been on the show.
I know, I love Simon. I do.
I had to cut the interview down to 2 parts. It took talking that much.
Did he think he was doing a podcast?
It was good, actually, really good.
Yeah, he's a good talker, far better than me. He's a lovely bloke. But he messaged me sort of like out of the blue and just said, "Are you doing any games for the next?" And I'm like, "I don't know. What's the next?" "Oh, this. You should do Warhawk on it." And that's where it started. And I said, "Oh, yeah, all right then." Admittedly, right at the start, that was meant to be me and Simon doing Warhawk.
Okay.
I had to learn the code, Z80 on the fly, doing it. But there's meant to be us doing it, but we didn't really fall out, but we didn't quite see eye to eye on it graphically. Because I wanted dirty and damaged, and Simon was doing all these glorious, very clean, pristine graphics.
Yeah.
And they were great, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't what I wanted for Warhawk.
Okay, yeah.
So
the aesthetic wasn't there for you.
Yeah, and so it just didn't work out. Sadly, I wish it had. So I went back with Lobo, who we worked on the DS version back then. So we got that same sort of style, which is what Warhawk needed. But I mean, as you know, I'm working with Simon now, and we're sort of, and I was, even back then when we sort of, it didn't work out with Warhawk, I said, "I will work with you. We are going to work together, so it will still happen, just not on Warhawk." I've still got all the old builds. I mean, I put on my YouTube, I think there's 3 videos of the early Warhawk showing Simon's graphics.
Yeah.
I'll put them up so people can see what was there.
No, it's good. It's good to see those little development videos.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a shame. But anyway, that was Simon that got me on the next.
Right. Okay. So was this as the Kickstarter was starting, or was it just before it was announced?
It was just, I don't know whether the Kickstarter was active at the time or whether it was before. Can't remember. I'd have to look.
Oh, wow. So it seems completely oblivious to it coming out.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really know anything about it. I mean, I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
It was a struggle because I mean Warhawk came from someone that hadn't coded Z80 really.
Yeah.
I knew a bit of Z80, but I knew similar processes, so
Mm.
that helped. And I certainly didn't know the next sort of architecture. And to make it worse, that was constantly changing prior to
Well, yeah.
actually coming out to anyone getting it. That was the time when the core could just be, you could say, right, we've got SID chips, which that we were in there then. We've got SID chips, we've got um, multiplication instructions. So we
Mm.
had 16-bit multiplication, which was handy. We had all this, and as it went on, see, obviously the FPGA was getting fuller and fuller, and things had to go. So the SID chips went. So, and I'd started writing a player. SID chips went, and then my 16-bit multiply went, which Warhawk relied on. So you had to sort of move with it, and so it was learning on the fly and learning an ever-changing system as well. So yeah, that was good. It's worked out for the best in the end.
It did. It did. What a great game. So what did you work on after Warhawk?
Or Bags in Space.
Okay.
That came about because I was Space Fractal, who does the music.
Mm.
One of his favourite games from back in the day was a game called Space Taxi,
Okay.
which you might not know. It's a Commodore 64 game. I'm not sure what else has been released on, but it's a great game.
Right.
And he'd been on and on at me about, oh, you should do Space Taxi on the next, and I hadn't. So what I thought I'd do is I'd try and get him coding Z80. I thought, well, I didn't find it too hard. He can code, so what I'll do is I'll do Space Taxi is a game with sort of inertia and all that, where you move a taxi between platforms with gravity and using thrust, a little bit like a sort of less a more loose lunar lander. But you
Mm.
go to the people that want a taxi and pick them up and take them to their destination, and that's pretty much it. Apart from there's loads else that goes on in the level. So I thought what I'll do is I'll do a little demo of something using inertia and gravity and all that. What should I do? Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll do jetpack.
Yeah.
So I knocked up jetpack, and it was the idea of giving him the code, which he did get access to, and saying, "There you go. That's how you do that. No, you know, you can have a play." But he didn't ever have a play, and then I shared it with Jim, and Jim said, "Yeah, it's really great, but what you should do is don't scrap it, make a proper game out of it." So then we just discussed it and said, what about if you could go, well, Jim actually said it, what about if you could go underground? And then Bags in Space was born. That
Mm.
just came from that.
Oh, where?
I said, all right, then I'll do loads of runs underground. We'll put the fuel all in different places
Yeah.
and put some new enemies in. So
Mm.
I just done the first level, which is why it's a bit smaller, um, with with just a few ideas in, some simple enemies going up and down, and a few basic shots, and yeah, and then the game just went from there.
Yeah.
And got Lobo back in on the graphics, Space Fractal on the music, as always, because he is good.
Yeah.
Well, he's
It really
awesome.
is. Yeah.
He is awesome. But yeah, and that worked out well. So
Mm.
that was the next step from Warhawk. In fact, it was being developed at the same time as Warhawk.
Yeah.
I think I'd got all the attack system and everything in Warhawk and like the first 4 levels, and then started Bags in Space as well. So I was
Yeah.
doing the two together. And Bags in Space was finished before Warhawk. Mainly because I was struggling with ideas of how to keep Warhawk going because I decided on 20 levels. So after you've done about 10 levels, you start thinking, well, what can I do that's different on this level?
Hmm.
And that's why I was just doing more of Bags in Space until I was thinking, oh, that's a good idea. Shove
Yeah.
that in Warhawk.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not until in Warhawk, it's not till about level 16 or something you get ground-based enemies. You know, it's just like, oh, that's what I haven't put in this game.
Right. I haven't even got that
Ground-based
far.
enemies.
So
I'll put
yeah.
some roads in and have them going around the roads and
Yeah.
firing at you and stuff. So yeah, it's funny how you sort of how you another game can help you develop the other game. You know, when you're working between doing 2 games, you can sort of, well, in fact, I ended up 3 games in the end.
Yeah, I was going to say. I take it you mean Tyvarian? Is it Tyvarian? Is that the correct way of
Yeah,
pronouncing it?
Tyvarian.
Hmm.
Yeah, that came about because I was doing what was it? It was something to do with the arcade ports. So well, it wasn't Scramble, I don't think. Well, it might have been Scramble.
Scramble. Okay.
Yeah, I've done a complete port of Scramble, trying to do it as close to the original as possible.
Was
And
this
it
to do
couldn't,
with
it
Rams, or
couldn't
was this separate?
separate.
Separate to
Yeah, no,
Rams. Okay.
Rams is
That's like a MAME, isn't it? Almost.
yeah, that's well, it's not emulation, it's running the original ROMs.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
so luckily it can do it natively. It just has to have a layer in between to um, inspect everything that the ROM is doing and
Yeah.
then present it to the player and then feedback the input back in. And so it's not an emulator, it's a, I don't know what you'd call it, but it's running the original ROMs. Scramble was just because I wanted to see how close I could do an arcade port.
Wow.
Um,
Well, you fooled me because I thought it was. I thought it was the arcade ROM.
no, yeah, no, it is a port. Um,
Wow.
there's no original code in there at all. Um, I,
Wow.
I, I was going through look, and that's why the bugs aren't there. Because if you notice, if you watch the arcade version, when ships launch, they'll flick off for a second. There's like a frame when they're not present, and then appear again. And they also, as soon as they get to the top of the screen, they disappear. They don't go off. And yeah, there was a few things I changed. And there's a couple of bugs in the game that were obviously not in the port. But yeah, I forgot where we were going with this.
Well, it's just your list of
Squirrel.
next
What?
games. It's just your list of next games.
Yeah. Now there's some reason I got onto that. I don't know. But yeah, so yeah, there was this scrambled. So yeah, that was in the middle of it. But that then, and this is getting back on track now. That then led me thinking, oh, one of my favourite arcade games was Solar Fox.
Right.
I'd
Okay.
do an exact conversion of Solar Fox.
Hmm.
So I started it, and then I thought, no, I could do much more with this than Solar Fox. Let's mix in a bit of Grid Runner and a bit of Hellgate, and a bit of everything, and just don't do Solar Fox after all. Do Tyvarian.
Hmm.
Tyvarian just formed. I've got the original Solar Fox conversion, which I never released, which is only one level, but that just went off on a tangent and became Tyvarian. And as Tyvarian progressed, that was just like, what can I put in this game? What else can I add? Well,
Yeah.
and just as I don't know how far you've ever played it, but the further you go, the more challenges appear. It's not just the same as the first arena that it just changes loads.
Hmm.
But Tyvarian 2 does way more, including scrolling and having massive levels.
Is Tyvarian 2 the current game you're working on now, or?
No, it's finished. It's just I'm just playtesting the last about 6 levels, which is
Yeah.
about, well, I say levels. each level has got 8 areas.
Mm.
Just checking the last of them off. That was delayed a bit by another game. So yeah, now finishing that off. But it's been finished for at least 18 months.
Right.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah, it's been finished a long time.
Mm. So we've now had the release of Head Over Heels,
Oh,
which I've got to say really impressed me. That must have been an absolute mammoth task
that was.
to get that right, because it's such a loved game, and to take that on, that's some serious pressure. That is.
That was, yeah.
That's almost the same as what they've just done a remake of The Crow. I don't know if you've seen the trailer.
Yeah,
It's
I have.
god awful.
Yeah.
But what? How did you start down that road? What made you decide to?
I didn't really decide as such.
Oh, okay.
Well, that was already all set up to go at the time of the second Kickstarter, but things didn't pan out, and or don't need to go there.
No,
Um,
all good.
so I ended up with Mike Cadwilly Wobbler.
I can never pronounce his name. I always have to apologise. Cadwalder, I think I called him.
Willy Wobbler, I think.
I don't know.
I ended
Sorry,
up with
Mike.
him in messaging me, saying, "Can you do it?" No. And then Enrique, will you do it? No. Don't want to do it. And that went on for actually quite a while, to be honest. If I'd have just said yes at the first time, that could have maybe been on the SD cards. But I didn't. I was just adamant, I'm not going to do it. And then Simon Butler, oh, you've got to do it. You've got to do it. No.
So it took a lot of no's.
Oh, yes, I'll do it. I'll do it. So, and I must admit, in the first, well, it wasn't just me actually. At the start, that was me and Kev Brady.
Okay.
As well, and I think that was when Kev said he would do it with me. I think that was the bit that made me think, oh, all right then, let's do it. Unfortunately, Kev's health that was the end of the year. You know, as winter comes with his troubles, he finds things a lot harder, and so it just didn't pan out. So I sort of left with it, but luckily still had Kev to talk to. So Kev, I need to do. Oh, just do that with this, and that'll work out. All right. So though I never got any code off Kev, I'm glad he was still there to talk to, even if it was just to save my sanity. Because it was more of a job than even at the time I thought that would be. Not just because it's an incredible, really hard piece of code, but there was just so many bits wrong with the original game. I know people will say, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with it; it's perfect," but there was so many little things wrong with it. Like Jet Set Willy deaths.
Okay.
Especially when it comes to heels, because heels can't move when heels is falling. So if you're in a room above and there's an enemy below you and you fall on that spot, you'll just go dunk, 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 dunk until all the lives go.
You just got the death loop. Yeah.
Yeah, there was just so many things like that in the game, and I didn't want to release them with them, even though everyone said, "Well, yeah, well, that's the original game." But other people are going to be playing this that have never played the original, and they're going to say, "God, look at this! That's terrible doing that in a game," and that'll be my fault. Not the original games. That'd be my fault. So I had to try and rectify them as much as I could without breaking the game at all. So there's special things you can add to enemies that say if heals is falling, don't move.
Yeah, get out the way.
Yeah, well, no, there's like enemies that'll track, and but if heals is falling in the room, not jumping, but entered a room falling and hasn't had become a state where he's actually landed, then that enemy will not move until he lands. You know, stuff like that. So there's lots of little things like that in it. So, and then like there'll be some rooms above where I've added like 2 platforms, so you can't step off at the exact point where something's under you.
Right,
Stuff
okay.
like that. So there's a few little modifications here and there to try and rectify that. But yeah, it's ridiculous. It was a hard job to do, and then some tit had the idea, why don't we do a whole new zone and loads of extra rooms and different enemy types. And
Who was that, Simon?
that was me.
Yeah, but
I regretted it shortly after.
It is the next, so why not?
Yeah. Well, it had to be because the Kickstarter goal actually said new enemies, new levels, new challenges, whatever it did say. I couldn't just do a straight port of it. I had to add something extra.
I wouldn't have wanted a straight port, because you've got the Spectrum Next and you can load the original onto the Spectrum Next. So what's the point?
Yeah,
I don't see the point of that. But yeah, you're still going to get comments like that. I know that.
yeah.
But my answer to that is, well, just load up the original then.
Yeah,
you can.
Yeah, you can. But I think it's nice because there's now more of a challenge in a way than what there was before. But the game has been made slightly easier because you haven't got as much of the accidental deaths. There's a few extra lives, but then there's 200 more rooms to navigate, so there has to be balance it out. And plus you've got the shop, the chickens, which are fun to find anyway, because some of the chicken rooms do new different stuff that you wouldn't see anyway. But it's fun to just try and find the chickens. You know, but if you know the original game, you'll soon know, oh, this bit's a bit different. I'll go and check this out.
Yeah.
And PJ was quite happy to find a chicken. So,
yeah.
So there is something in there where it's like a little special extra.
See, I wasn't a massive fan of the original. I loved Batman.
I liked it more than I do now, I must admit.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of hours you put into it, yeah.
7 months. I thought that'd be like 3, maybe 4.
Yeah. And was it? Is it Adrian Sinclair? Has he been testing it for you? Am I
He's
right
been
in saying
great. Adrian's been absolutely great.
He's a good guy, isn't he?
He's a lovely chap. He really is.
Shout out to Adrian Sinclair.
Oh, definitely, he's great. But yeah, he's been doing a lot. We've had quite a few testers on it, but Adrian has definitely gone above and beyond. You know.
Yeah, that's good. Right, do you fancy a quick 5-minute break?
Yeah, I need a wee.
Yeah, you have a wee. I'll have a wee, and I'll get me another drink, and I'll meet you back here on the bells.
Oh no, I better zoom in a bit.
Or
I haven't got zoom in. What I've got is move the little table closer.
I have as well. Look.
Yeah. Oh, you. Yeah.
Let's go back to head over heels. Now, I've had a couple of I've had some lovely comments, by the way, on the YouTube video that I did.
Yeah.
Things now I'm going to shout out to Duncan Woodward for this because he's got some interest.
Well, Duncan would, wouldn't he?
Woodward, yes.
Yeah.
Things I liked. We've got lovely
Oh, I
graphics,
saw that one,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. Little bit of animation's really nice touch. I 100% agree with that.
Can I just say, before we go any further here, how much I had to argue with Simon about them?
Oh, adding the bits to the background. Was that your idea, was it?
Because they don't add to gameplay.
It might not add to gameplay, but I love little quirks and attention to detail like that. And
I just wanted to get that out there. So if Simon watches this,
that's
we
fine.
can just say,
oh, I'm sure he'll watch it.
It might not add to gameplay, but they do add to the player's experience of playing the game.
Yes, it stopped me in my tracks, as you saw by the video.
But then Simon did once he agreed to do them, he did get carried away. And if you get anywhere in the game, there's some lovely little little nods and winks hidden in the game.
I'm all for that. I'm trying to think how to explain it. It makes it alive. It makes the world alive, and I like that.
Well, Simon ran with it in the end.
Yeah. So, no, fair play. Yeah, I'm all for that. So we've got extra rooms that weren't in the original, giving it more replay value. Yeah, totally agree with that. Difficulty control. Was that in the original? I don't think it was it?
No.
Difficulty. So that's another.
Yeah, good, don't play on that.
Add.
Yeah, don't play it on that.
Gameplay seems to be based around the original versions and not retrospect PC remake. Now, I didn't know there was a PC version.
Have you played it yet?
I haven't played it, but I did have a look.
Doors inside the room, you can actually land on the tops of doors. But with the doors being inside the room, some of the rooms are actually broken now. So they make them like 10 times harder because you're trying to navigate around the side and you hit the doorposts. You get stuck. Stuff. Yeah,
no. I see.
It's lovely in a way because it looks quite nice, and I love the shadow, which is
I did spot the shadow
on a PC. But other than that, I'm not going to knock it. But
did you think about adding a shadow? By the way,
you couldn't, because you could add one shadow for the character you're playing, but that's not what you need the shadow on. What you need the shadow on is all the blocks.
Yeah.
And you can't do that because you've got so many moving blocks as well, moving enemies. You'd end up running at 6 frames a second, if you're trying to render all that as well. Yeah. You just couldn't do it. It was neither all or nothing, and all would not work. You can't just add it for the character. Because that isn't the bit that helps. You're controlling the character. Your point of reference is actually all the blocks in the room.
Yeah.
And they're the ones which can be really hard to tell whether they're in the air at the back or they're on the floor closer. They're the bits which are hard to see, and that's the bits that need the shadow, and you just couldn't do it.
Yeah. It's getting the perspective right, isn't it? What when you're playing?
Well, I actually modified quite a few rooms that to make it a little bit more obvious where things were without affecting the puzzles. The first room that I did was probably, if you remember, the one where you've got 3 platforms on top of a arc and you have to push them, and there's a conveyor that knocks them off so they stack.
Yeah.
And then you push them across and climb up. If you look on the original, the helipad that you have to use to get up is a slightly different orientation, just to make it easier. And also, you notice that the helipads have also got a little flashing helipad sign on the floor. Have you noticed that?
I don't know if I did, but
so that you know where to stand to jump on them. Because in some rooms,
Yeah.
That's really hard to see. You have to wait ages till they come down and think, that's where they are.
Mm.
So we added this little flashing helipad, little floor tile,
Yeah.
just to. But that's what I say. It's all or nothing. You couldn't then do that for everything. That's a special case. But that doesn't. It does make you think. Well, everything should have something, because that's a little flashing helipad sign. You know, that's only associated with a helipad. But it just makes it a bit easier when you're trying to sort of jump and land on it, or do anything like that. But
Yeah. Yeah. And then he goes on to say that
I can't believe you're drinking.
the background. It's a Friday. Why not? I haven't had a drink for a while.
It's terrible.
Yeah, so he goes on to saying that the background music's nice and nice
Nice.
feel to it.
Absolutely
Nice. I know. No, I thought it was fantastic, to be honest.
You should hear some of the late. You wait till you get to Tech Town.
Okay.
Well, the market is really nice because he's Space Fractal. He said, "Well, what kind of sort of themes do you want?" I said, "Well, I want like the marketplace with me being an Englishman. My sort of memories of sort of marketplaces is lots of pubs around them and people in there and singing My Old Man and some of the old classic songs.
Roll out the barrel.
Exactly. So I said, I want a bit of that in the market music.
Mm.
And he's done it. I won't say what ones he's done. I'd love it when people notice.
Wow.
But then when he said to me, well, what about Tech Town? What kind of music do you want on that? I said, well, he went ahead and done one artist that he's really like a remix. So you know it is, but it isn't, if you know what I mean. And I said, I'd like these in there as well. So one of them is, you'll notice it in it, is OMD locomotion, crossing every ocean for the sake of locomotion. That's in there, but there's a load of others. So I'm not going to say, because it's quite nice when people and I think, oh, I know that.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's gone. Hold on, I'll have to. I'll swap back to the other character so I can start the other tune. That's why I swap back and hear this one from the beginning. But Space Fractal, I'm sure, will release hopefully an audio compilation, but he'll certainly put it on his website so you can listen to all the tunes.
Yeah.
We were going to add a jukebox in there so you can listen to all the music.
Yeah.
Memory, I'm down to less than 3K in the whole thing, and they're split along banks. So some banks have got like 80 bytes free, and another bank will have 200 bytes, and so they're not even in one place. You can't. It just towards the end, that was just like, this is going to end up a 2 meg game. I've got so much graphics. I've got so many animations, and they're all 256 color animations and all that. So it takes up a lot of space. Everything is compressed, including some code that and decompressed when it's needed. And I just didn't think I was even get it in. I wanted to get it in 1 meg so that later when they do go on sale, that people that have got clones and stuff that couldn't be expanded, or people on the Kickstarter one, could still enjoy it.
Yeah, that's good. It keeps it
Listen,
available for everybody then, doesn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't make any difference. It wouldn't affect sales because there's so few people that have still got what I would expect that have still got one meg.
Well, it's so easy to upgrade, and it's really
But there
cheap,
isn't
isn't
many.
it?
But there's bound to be a few. But even if there's 20 people that think, God, I really wanted to play that, well, they still can.
Yeah.
And also, it's that old thing that you just want to. It's like a challenge to yourself. It's got to fit in 1 meg.
Well, that was
Gonna fit. I'm gonna squeeze it in there.
That's the way, isn't it? Those restrictions are what bring on the best in games, and you're seeing that in. I mean, some of the 1 to 8K specky games that are coming out now are incredible,
Yeah.
especially from is it Zoysa? The games
Yeah,
that
who done the travel through, not travel through time, the racing game.
yeah, it
I can't remember what
it's
it's
something
called
to do
now.
with travel
Something
time.
in
Yeah, yeah,
time.
yeah. So Seraphima, and I mean
Yeah,
Seraphima is
that
incredible.
is just beautiful.
Yeah,
That really is.
yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
but
it
it's
just shows
nice
you.
to try and see what you can just fit in as
Yeah,
well. It's like trying you used to have to fit a game into 64K on the 64 because no one liked to load extra levels. And just trying to fit as much as you can in at once in one load, and it's all there.
yeah,
Um, and that was sort of like a little challenge as a way, in a way. But that honestly, I mean, Space Fractal will probably say in comment that there's some points that we still had loads of rooms to add where I was nearly out of memory, and I still had Tech World to do and try and fit in. So it took a lot of juggling and removing the slightest things I could remove. I mean, there's wall tiles. There's 96 of them, different designs across all the walls. That's a lot of
wow,
memory.
yeah,
256 color. I mean, some of them are rendered to 256 colors, but are stored less, so they know what palette entries to use. So when I need them, I then set them up as they decompress them, then DMA them.
yeah.
So modify them, and it's just for the sake of getting it all in. But anyway, carry on with your reading.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I
So
distracted you.
no, it's all good. So let's
Yeah.
have a go. Let's have a look at what he didn't like. So game speed is too fast on the normal setting.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that because I thought
Well,
the original was
I
way
wouldn't
too slow.
disagree. I wouldn't disagree because each to their own. But you can
You have got the
certainly,
choice, haven't you? You have got
yeah,
the choice.
you can.
Yeah,
You
you
do.
have got the
There
choice.
is a slower mode which isn't quite as slow as the original,
Yeah,
because I know damn well that John wouldn't have wanted it that slow.
yeah,
But it's like a halfway house, as it were.
yeah, yeah.
It it's a lot slower than the normal, but not so slow that it becomes,
Yeah,
a chore. So
yeah,
slow that you just.
yeah. But again, you can go back to load the original up then. So
Well, I do hope that people don't go back to loading the original, if only for comparison.
well,
I
no,
mean,
because yeah, because at the end of the day, you've spent all this time writing the next version. Of course, you don't want people to go back to the original.
well, I'd love them to look when they find fault with. When they find fault with the next version, to actually go back and just look at the original and think, oh, hold on, things were a lot worse then. Or just yeah.
It's easy to reflect back onto the original until you actually play it, because at the end of the day, we were all a lot younger then and more gullible and a bit more wowed by what you were seeing, because we hadn't got PCs and games that look like films. So it's quite easy to to see things that way. So what else have we got? What's happened to the original jingles that play when going through each door?
Fucking annoying.
Yeah,
Every time you went for a door.
yeah, I liked it, but I prefer the continuous music and the
Well, so do
different
I.
music per room. So yeah, okay,
That was totally my choice, I will say.
yeah,
That I thought, well, Space Fractal is so good at music. I would much rather have per zone music that plays when you enter different zones,
Hmm.
than these annoying little jingles every time you went through a door.
Yeah.
Go in and out of a door, in and out of a door, in and out of a door. And but the thing is, if you've got continuous music which is playing themed to the area you're in, you can't have the jingles, because all of a sudden you're mixing notes. You'd have to like stop the music that's playing every time you went through a door to play the
Yep.
jingle,
Hmm.
or not play the jingle, or play them both.
Yeah.
And you can imagine how hideous that would be if you played them both.
Plus the original
Stop the music.
48K, that they had to do it that way because
Yeah.
there's no way you're going to have continuous. It would have had to have
No.
been one
Well.
tune, which would have
Yeah.
drove you mad
Yeah.
after a bit.
Yeah. Sort of
You're not going to get multiple tunes,
8
are you?
bars.
Through. Yeah. Oh
The
God.
Hall of the Mountain King. And that's going over and over and over.
Yeah. Where's the music off button?
Yeah. That's K. Press it.
Mm.
But the but you also got the same thing like when you collected crowns or power-ups or everything, that always played a jingle.
Mm.
But you can't do that if you're playing loads of lovely 6-channel music. You can't have it playing jingles as well. You've got to just do a sound effect. That's all you can do. Otherwise, you destroy the music that's being played, don't you?
Well, that's what's good. That the fact that we've got 9 AY channels to play with, so we can have 6 channels of music and 3 channels of sound effects.
Yeah.
You didn't have that back in the day. I mean, obviously the 128K, when you load it on the 128K machine, you get the AY sound effects, which obviously are a lot better than the beeps. But now I like the continuous music. And again,
I do.
it's the next. We've got to forget about the past now. It's the next. So I'm all for that. And the last couple of things were I'm not quite sure on this one. Keyboard controls buried in a sub menu. Head over heels is a keyboard game on any system. It's not a joystick stroke joypad game, really. Now, again, this is, for me, this is a preference thing. When I had my Specky back in the day, I would say 9 out of 10 games. Well, probably all of them, actually. I played on keyboard.
Yeah.
More accurate control. I just preferred playing games on a keyboard. Plus, interfaces back then, they were shit. They were absolutely terrible because they either didn't work properly, or you'd knock the interface and your machine had reset, or the joystick ported, the solder in the actual interface itself would break. And so I had loads of problems with interfaces. So I always used keyboard control. With the Next, we've got 2 ports built in. The version of Head Over Heels that you've created supports multi-button pads. I'm not a fan of pads, by the way, even though...
No, I wouldn't want to play it with a pad, but...
No, even though I predominantly play Next games with a PlayStation 4 pad with the 8-bit Do. I want somebody to develop a joystick because I prefer a joystick with 3 buttons. We'll see what happens there. I know you can probably modify one and wire it up yourself using a Mega Drive schematic or whatever. But yeah. So did yourself or Adrian do most of the testing via keyboard, do you know, or was it pad?
Well, I think Adrian done nearly all of it by keyboard, because he's been moaning about his keys getting worn out on his because he's got his little self-built Engo.
Yes, I've seen.
Got
Oh, his
laptop.
laptop version. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, he was playing most of the keys.
Mm.
I was certainly playing mostly with keys because adding support for the XYZ buttons didn't come till right near the end.
Mm.
Because like on the Next, it's quite easy to read A, B, C, and start on like a 8-bit do or Mega Drive controller.
Yeah.
XYZ is different.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
But it had to be worked in such a way that if you're on 1 button, 3 button, 6 button, you still, which is why if you're on like 6 buttons, well, it's 7 including the start button, that the start and is it X will do the same. They'll both swap character, but that's
Right.
so
Okay.
that if you're on a 3 button, which would only give you ABC, you've still got the character swap on start. So you've still got the main stuff. You can't have fire because obviously you need jump, carry, and jump and carry are more important than anything else.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, I was discovering that on the fly when I was using the PS4 pad. I was like, oh yeah, that does that, and yeah. So okay. So current projects.
Yeah.
Is there any, what have you got going on at the moment that you can talk about? I know sometimes there's some things you want to keep under the radar.
Finishing off Tyvarian 2.
Okay.
Which even with all the others is my favourite game.
Mm.
That's probably the game I've put the most of me in. Which
Oh,
isn't
okay.
always a good thing. But it's a game that is just it's evolved. Just and I wouldn't say it's totally original, but it's certainly got a lot in it that gives it its own identity.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a lot in it, and it takes the original Tyvarian and just goes nuts with the game plan from the original. Just there's huge levels. It's massive. I mean, some of the levels, well, they're huge. Well, they're not even levels. They're arenas. I can't even remember how many there are now. It's been so long since. How many are there? 20 arenas, each of 8 levels, and some of them levels are massive scrolling ones. Well, most of them are scrolling, apart from the first arena. The first starting area isn't so much, but later on, yeah, they're all sort of scrolling and.
Okay.
But there's loads of. Well, I just don't want to give it away. The more you play it, the more things that you discover. And also, when you complete it and everything else, and as you do well in it, you actually unlock 2 bonus games within the game. So there's actually 2 games that you then can unlock and then play as well with their own high scores.
That's cool. I like that. I mean, that's grabbing a bit of the that's grabbing a bit of the modern, isn't it? Like New Game Plus kind of thing. I like that. That's cool.
Well, it's always nice to. I mean, one thing we always do at Rusty Pixels is we try and put lots into a game. So there's lots to find, lots to discover.
Replayability.
Also, you'll never complete a Rusty Pixels game and just get you've completed this game, well done. You will always get something at the end worth seeing as well. So hopefully you enjoy the game and then you get to the end and you enjoy the completion. because for anyone that's sort of completed Bags in Space, even there's a big completion. Warhawk's got a big completion. Tyvarian, big completion. Tyvarian 2, big completion. Even Head Over Heels has got a completion worth seeing.
Wow,
You know,
that's
so
good.
there's always it carries on further than just the game. So there's a little bit,
That's,
a little bit.
that's
of fun.
good, and that's nice to hear, because the last thing you want to do is spend hours and hours on a game and then it just pops up the end and then resets.
Or repeats. Just go straight back to the first level. Have I completed, or is this first level a harder version? No, it's right.
Yeah. Yeah. And how about future projects? What would you like to work on, or is there anything that you can mention that might be coming out for the next?
Well, Crowley, which was the platform game, which has been shown off, the Crowley engine is still very powerful. The engine is there, the game isn't.
Okay.
So I'd like to go back to that, rip out everything we've done so far, and just start fresh with it. I've spoken to Simon about this, and he said, "Yeah, let's go for it," because it just didn't work out. There was just the magic wasn't there in the level design, or I mean, the gameplay was fine, the mechanics were fine, but just something didn't quite gel.
You're talking about Crowley, the Crowley 2. I'll call it Crowley 2. It's a Kickstarter 2.
No.
No?
Crowley is a bit like a Mario game.
Okay.
The Super Mario World is probably the best, the closest. It's quite a massive with a map, so you navigate on the map to the levels and have to find stuff, and you power up and all that kind of stuff. It was started. We did about 5 levels, and then it just didn't feel right. So even though there was months of work on the engine, I just thought I'll put it on the back burner, come back to it later, and I intend to come back to it this year.
Yeah.
And make it into the game that it should be. And as I say, I spoke to Simon and he's agreed. So we will resurrect that. We've also got Quake Star to come back to.
Okay.
Which has had quite a lot of work done on it. So that'll be coming. There's a game that I can't talk about, which I'm working on at the moment. And we'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
Hopefully that'll turn up on Steam as well. What else is there? There is more. Oh, Tanium.
Oh, what's that?
Warhawk 2.
Right. Okay.
So it's a horizontal and vertical shoot 'em up with land-based missions as well. So you sort of horizontal shoot 'em up zone, and then you'll switch to a vertical zone, a bit like Salamander. And then
Yes.
at the end, you'll land on the planet surface and run around a little bit commando, to get the bit that you need from the level that is what you're looking for through all the levels. Idea is to have 10 levels and each has got 3 zones.
Okay, that sounds right up my street. I like the idea of
Yeah,
that.
that's a big job though, so we'll see where that goes, and I'm sure that will end up being a 2 meg game.
Yeah.
So I can't think I'm gonna squeeze it all into 1 meg. You never know, might do.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but yeah, don't give me that.
Okay.
Conversion of Head Over Heels, there's a challenge for you. Oh yeah, all right.
Mate, exemplary job on that. Fantastic
Yeah,
job.
thank you. Well, I hope it's well received. It seems to be. I haven't had no one sort of emailing me and saying this game is rubbish. Yeah.
Well, I think you'd have to ignore that
Well, you
message
do.
anyway.
It doesn't
I
matter what
mean-
you do. It doesn't matter what you do. To be honest, you will always get people that will moan about things.
Of course you will.
You'll
That's
always get it.
well, that's life in general, isn't it? Some
Yeah.
people just go out their way to moan about things, don't they?
Yeah.
And it's quite easy to do behind a keyboard rather than somebody stood in front of you moaning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
But
to
it's one of them things that you don't care about.
you can't.
Yeah.
You can't, can you?
If you're happy that you've done the best that you can do,
Yeah.
then you've almost sort of built up a little suit of armor against anyone that's going to be, well, not trolling. I think that's a bit severe, but who's just going to who's going to list all the failings rather than any positives. People are just, well, they can be like that.
Well, you just have to be positive about it, don't you? I mean, if you've had 50 good comments and you've had 2 bad comments, then I'm sorry, the 50 good comments outweigh the 2
I'd
bad
be quite
comments.
happy with 49 bad comments and 1 really good one, because there's the good ones that count. That really is.
Well,
that's all that matters.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
So to finish off, I'm going to do a quick fire round. Never done this before, so just basic questions. Favorite beer?
What?
Favorite beer?
Don't drink beer.
Don't drink beer. Okay. Favorite spirit then?
Whiskey.
Favorite film?
As a toss-up, can I?
Go on.
The Man from Earth.
Okay.
You'll have to look it up.
Yeah, I don't know what that one is.
Yeah, and even though it's a musical, probably Rocky Horror.
Oh, Rocky Horror is pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah.
Or American Werewolf in London. See, it's hard.
Oh, that scared me. That did. Scared the living daylights out of me. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you a story about that. Is because back in the day, my dad got a certain version, we'll say, on Betamax.
Yeah.
Betamax, and said it was a comedy. He hadn't reviewed this film, and
it is comedy.
It is a comedy. It's a black comedy, but he just thought it was a comedy. And scared the living daylights out of me. I don't know. I wasn't very old, so
yeah, but you did see Jenny Agnett's tits. All done.
But what a fantastic film!
That is a great film. I remember watching
that transformation is still yet to be beaten.
Yeah.
So
the
good.
Slaughtered Lamb pub. With
that becomes a saying, doesn't it? When you walk into a pub and there's hardly anything going on.
Yeah, and Rick Mail, Rick Mail in there.
Yeah, class. Okay.
So they're 2 then. Forget Rocky Horror because that's a musical.
So American Werewolf in London. Yeah, you're going for that.
Yeah, and A Man from Earth.
Okay, I'll look that one up. Okay. Favorite TV series?
Oh God, that's a hard one.
So many, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. There is just loads. Possibly Red Dwarf, to be honest.
Okay, that's good choice. Good choice.
Probably the one that's given me the most pleasure, the most watched. I mean, Blackadder, yeah. Not enough episodes.
Not the first season though, obviously.
Why? St. Juniper's Day, 1498, the day when the king would lavish new honours upon his kinfolk. St. Juniper once said, on this, what was it? Something I will. Oh, I can't remember it all now. I used to know all of the first series off by heart.
Wow, I'd really, these questions I'm asking you, I'd really struggle, because favourite TV series, it'd be things like Mork and Mindy, Muppet Show, Police Squad. I could go on. Starsky and Hutch, A-Team, Knight Rider. yeah, I could not have a favourite TV series, so fair enough. A favourite game, this would be impossible for me as well.
Favourite game, what of all time?
Go on, of all time.
Half-Life 2.
Oh, that's a fantastic choice.
Yeah, it's probably
Fantastic
the
choice.
one that
So,
I waited
can you
the
see that?
longest
Look,
for. I
there.
played the most.
It
Yeah,
is, look.
yeah. There's other games that have given
Actually,
me.
that's Half-Life. Sorry, Half-Life 2's up there.
Yeah, Half-Life 2 is. I don't know. It's waited so long for it, and was not disappointed at all.
Yeah.
Played it so many times.
And wasn't the orange box the most perfect games pack ever made?
Yeah, I think it probably was.
Yeah. I mean, Portal for me is
I mean,
just.
there's other games that I have loved over the years.
Yeah.
But the one that really sticks in my mind is definitely Half-Life 2.
We still, every now and again, we still have a bit of a lad night and throw toilets at each other.
Yeah, it's got to be done.
It's brilliant. Just pull off a sink with your gravity gun, get a kill. Love it. Okay, and last question.
Yeah.
I've got a sneaking feeling I know the answer to this, but we'll go for it. Favorite music artist or band?
No, you won't know. See?
Oh, go on then. Okay.
Yeah. Is a tough one.
Yeah.
Favorite band. If you want favorite band, is the Beatles.
Oh well. Yeah. Okay.
By
That's not a bad choice. That's not a bad
almost
choice.
favorite solo artist would have been John Lennon, but Tori Amos.
Oh wow.
Probably
Okay.
is probably my favorite, shortly followed by Paloma Faith.
Right. Okay. Brilliant.
Tori Amos, yeah, no. Some of her songs just, and the lyrics and the piano playing, fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
See, you didn't know.
No, I didn't. No.
You didn't know.
That's good. That's always good though.
Yeah, Tori Amos is just astounding.
Yeah.
Astounding talent that I mean everyone just knows of her Cornflake Girl. You know, which is tragic. Brilliant song, but tragic because she's done so much better. Anyone just look at for Winter by Tori Amos and listen to the lyrics and the little analogies between, I mean, things like putting your hand in your father's glove to keep your own hand warm. It just, well, yeah, incredible.
Well, the things you can relate to, aren't they? And think about it. And
things that you've done, you know. Well, I certainly did.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, some brilliant lyrics.
It's that connection. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Mate, it's been absolutely fantastic. This has. Cheers for agreeing to do this little podcast chat with me.
Well, yeah. Well, as long as the money comes through. I haven't had a pin yet.
Checks in the post. I've been assured.
You said you were going to send it via PayPal. I've been.
Oh no, you don't use PayPal. They just put.
Friends and family. I've never received it.
Jesus Christ, PayPal have been a bit of a nightmare. They are.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Cheers for doing this. Appreciate it.
No, it's all right. It's been a pleasure. It's, yeah. Wife will tell me off, but it's been a pleasure.
Your tea's in the oven.
Yeah. No, I promised her Kentucky tonight.
Oh, okay. I'll leave you cook that then.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, yeah, generally, cheers for doing this. Really appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of your evening.
Can you do me a favour though? But please.
Of course I can. Go on. Of course I can.
When you edit all this,
yeah.
If there's any moment in there where you see me smile,
I've got to cut that bit out.
You've got to cut, mate. No, I'm trying now to. Hold on. Let me just get a.
You've got this. Yeah, you see, you've got this reputation to hold up, haven't you? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Is that the thumbnail I've got to use?
Yeah. Replace every smile with that. I just kept it static for long enough for you.
Oh, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. It really
No,
has.
I'm normally quite a grumpy git, but you just brought the best out of me.
That's good. That's
that
good.
PayPal payment didn't that helped as well, obviously.
Yeah, I've just sent you another one. So
Oh,
there
well
you go.
done. Oh yeah, that's it. No.
Just ping it up.
Yeah.
I didn't know you was trying to model yourself on Jack D.
On Jack D or Victor Meldrew, as I get called.
Oh, Victor Meldrew is my hero. I love Victor Meldrew. Yeah. I can every year I slowly and turn into Victor Meldrew.
Yeah, I did that about 22, I think.
22.
Yeah.
Okay. That last year
That's
then.
how old
Yeah.
I am now.
Was that last year? Yeah.
Yeah, I wish it was. God. You drunk that yet?
Oh. Anyway, mate. Cheers.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, mate.
Yeah, I'll speak to you soon, matey.
All right, you take care.
See you later. Take care.
Bye.